Welcome to Easy Email Marketing. I'm your host, Yael Keown, mum, FIFO wife, MBA, coffee lover, survivor superfan, and creator of the email experience. In Easy Email Marketing, you'll benefit from my nearly 20 years experience, where I'll be teaching you all the tips, tricks, and insider info on how to create feel-good, non-spammy experiences for your subscribers. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to Easy Email Marketing. I'm your host, Yael Keown, and today we are back to AI because I admit I have gotten a bit obsessed lately. And let's be honest, it isn't going anyway, and it's getting to the point where we just need to suck it up and embrace it. Now, as you know, I was one of those people who avoided AI knowing it could not write as well as I could. And in truth, it still can't, if left to its own devices. But me and AI combined is better than either of us on our own, so I have chosen to utilize it, embrace it, love it, and become a bit obsessed. And while I wish I would say it saves me a ton of time, in all honesty, it doesn't. Not because it takes too long to produce an email or other piece of copy, but because I start going down rabbit holes and end up on a million tangents, fueled by the dopamine rush of ideas and fresh information that just comes through. I admit it has now become an obsession, and I have taken the turn into creating my own custom GPTs and developing full frameworks for helping my clients and students get the most from these tools. In other words, all the ways in which I can try to take my email marketing know-how, extracting all of that from my brain and all that expertise about what makes great email copy into a second brain, basically putting and feeding that into ChatGPT. So much so that I have gone ahead and created a brand new free training, which is happening in a couple of weeks, the Email AI Formula, which will show you how to transform your ChatGPT from a generic content robot into your personal email copywriter. So it's happening live with a replay. Don't worry if you can't make the live session on the 12th of November. You can learn more and register at yaelkeown.com/AI. But today, I'm going to share with you 6 ways you can use AI for your email marketing and one thing that you shouldn't use it for. Plus, as I go, I'll be providing some suggested prompts, but I will go into more detail. And if you did want to follow along with those or copy and paste and steal them, make sure to head to my website and look for the companion blog post. I will link to that in the show notes so you can go ahead and copy and paste and utilize them to your liking. Before we get stuck into the 6 ways, one important thing I want to note is that you always need to add context to these prompts and every time you are getting ChatGPT to create something for you. So at a minimum, you need to tell it, we are you describe what you do, our audience is, who they are, they, what are their challenges or the challenges around the specific thing you are focusing on, and they want, what is the result or outcome. These are key factors that will help influence and generate much better results than if you just plugged straight into the email. Of course, that is only very surface level and really the bare minimum. I will talk more about the different things we want to feed it at the end of this episode. But with that said, and with that in mind, let's get stuck into the 6 ways. The first way is idea generation. So this could be for your original content, which could be something like, give me 20 blog post ideas for topic. It could be to repurpose existing content. So give me 10 email ideas from this blog post and copy and paste the whole thing, or from this podcast transcript. Or it could be through a full email plan. Generate a 12-week email marketing plan with emails on topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. Or it could be for a promotional series. So I want to run a 3-part promotion series. Here are what could the 3 emails be? And get it to create ideas for you based on that. I always like it to create many more ideas than I actually need and use it as a little bit of a filter to inspire my own. And definitely I go a little bit back and forth and say, oh, I like this one. Can you give me more like that? Way number 2 is through research on a certain topic. So I use Claude and ChatGPT. Claude has a research mode. ChatGPT has a deep research mode. I believe it's only on the paid plans. And that's where I ask it to do some research on a particular topic. And I like to say things like do some research on the top 10 factors influencing a certain topic. I like to give it a bit more context. So this should be specific to something. Don't focus on this, instead focus on that. Focus on qualitative or quantitative. And I generally say specifically I'm looking for information dated within the last 2 years. This provides so much better results than a Google search, which can often give you things and stats from like 10, 20 years ago. Or if you don't have the full deep research mode, you could try things like find me some statistics for, and then see what it comes up with. You could ask, what are people searching for online about a certain topic? Or what are some examples of a certain topic? So this helps fuel ideas. But a few caveats here. Number 1, check your sources. I have so many times had these GPTs give me statistics that are not real. So they give you the hyperlinks to the source information. I will click on the hyperlink and think, oh, that's really an amazing stat. I'll click on it and then I try to do a find on that page to find the stat and I cannot find it. So I go back to it and say, where is it that you got this from? And then it goes, oh, sorry, I just made that up, effectively. So you do need to check your sources. Always go back to the original. Never go with, when you're talking about hard facts, never go with just what it spits out. And so at least you know, rest assured that as anything that I'm sharing with you, I'm doing my fact checking on it. Also, do not copy and paste these results. Do not let it do your thinking for you. So normally when I'm doing this research process, I'll have some key points written down. I'll know my topic area. I don't know, I want to touch on this. I want to touch on this. I want to touch on this. This is an important point. But what this does is it helps me identify gaps. Maybe it helps me find some backup data or resources to support my arguments and what I already know to be true. And then I always, of course, add my own thought leadership to it. So it might say something about subject lines or deliverability, and I go, yeah, why is that? Or how can I come up with an example? Or can I think of an example from my clients or my students where this is exemplified? Or I do ask, is this really true? Have I seen that in my experience? So this doesn't replace your thinking. This just helps you identify gaps, get some backup information, and who knows, you might find some really, really great source information for all sorts of other ideas. Way number 3 is, of course, to write the email, and typically this starts with your first draft. So it could be write a sales email for, or write an email encouraging readers to click through and read this following blog post, or repurpose the following blog post into an email where, write a helpful email about something. Generally, my prompt says something like act as an email copywriter and write a campaign email for blank. The main call to action is blank and the focus should be blank. So I always want to say who it's for, like what the email is about, what I want my subscriber to do, and the general overall focus. And then, of course, we've also got that extra context we have provided. You will also include notes about your structure and copywriting style. This, of course, is something that you've developed over time, or maybe you have your own hack around it, and I will talk more about that later on. But this is where you would begin. You always start with a first draft, and the first draft is not going to be good, or it might be on the path to good, but at least it is something for you to work from and go back and forth with. Which brings me to way number 4, which is editing. In other words, I like to call this arguing back. This is my favourite pastime when it comes to working with the bots. It's going back and forth and making the email amazing. So this could be from a big picture perspective. So overall, it could be something like the tone and saying something like, it's coming across a bit too, I don't know, chatty. Can you make the language more clear? Or overall, like the content, can you add or remove a little more about this? or angle. Like, I'm not unsure of the angle. Can you make it more about this? Formatting, can you shorten the sentences? Can you break this section down into extra points? Or can you add some extra personality by like adding a reference to pop culture or whatever it is? Can you make it more conversational? Write it in the first, second, third person. Use Australian English spelling. So all of this stuff you can put into the guidelines at the beginning or have a guideline document for, but these are bits and pieces you might want to put in. You might say, can you add in some key statistics showing something? Or can you add an example or a story? Or I like this. Can we keep that but switch the focus to something else? And my favourite, of course, and should be all your favourites, is please remove the M dashes, which it still might not remove all of them, but keep an eye on that as well. So there's some overall big picture edits, but sometimes I also like to go in and focus in on one line at a time. So I could say, can you try 5 variations of the opening line? Or can you try the opening line from this angle and then say, give me 5 options. So you can focus in on specific areas of the email at a time and then build your final thing. Way number 5 is, of course, helping it generate your subject lines and your calls to action. These are your most important pieces of copy. So I like to do this with pretty much every email I send just to get some ideas. So it could be write 20 different subject lines for this email. Give me 20 subject lines. It could be saying things like use alliteration or add some extra adjectives, add numbers. So we do some arguing back and forth here. Or you can go do some subject line and pre-header text combinations. And of course, we've got our calls to action. So what will go on the button? Or how can we try 5, 10 different versions of what you're asking someone to do? So again, you can choose something that is a lot more reflective of you. And again, sometimes I end up using a mix of what the results are, but I ask it to generate a lot because that's when it starts getting more creative. And way number 6 we use AI for your emails is to repurpose your content. I am all about repurposing, and this is one of the most effective uses of AI because it's already using your thought leadership, it's already using your original content and putting it into more places. So we've already said about, make this blog post into an email. I, of course, take these podcast transcripts and use the transcripts of those to help create content around this. And so it's using my original content, but it's making it really accessible really quickly. Or it could be, of course, taking those emails and asking it to go ahead and create a blog post or some social media posts from the content. Or you could ask it to give you 10 more content ideas based around this. Or can you rewrite it using a storytelling approach or a digest email style approach? Or can it be like a mini case study? So talking about the points but kind of flipping it. Or convert this email for use in an automation where what? So what is the automation? Do you want to put it in your welcome series? Do you want to put it in your sales funnel? Do you want to put it in your abandoned cart series? So just mixing it up and repurposing it in that way. So they are 6 ways that I use AI for email marketing. Of course, there are many more ways, but this is really the top level 6. Quick recap, idea generation. Way 2 is topic research. Way 3 is your first draft. Way 4 is editing, aka arguing back. Number 5 is your subject lines and calls to actions. And number 6 is repurposing. And of course, remember with all of these, we want to include that context, of who you are, what you do, who your audience is, what their challenges are, and what they want. And the more you feed it, the better. Now, I did also mention there's one thing that I don't let it do, and that is my thinking for me. Or I don't let it give me doubts about my writing style and what I think my audience wants. My biggest asset is my thought leadership, and that's goes for you too. Whether you're expert in your niche, maybe, or you're just the expert in your products and what you offer, you know more still than your AI. You know your audience. You know your business, you know your products, you know your services, and you have a few opinions. So don't let it overtake you just because it can use pretty words and make it sound good. So this comes back to the arguing back. If it's coming at it from the wrong angle or you think it's not quite hitting the mark, argue back with it till it gets it correct. And sometimes I just take what it gives me and kind of use it as a bit of inspiration and I rewrite the whole thing completely. Or I allow it to give me more ideas. As I said, it kind of feeds itself. I don't let it make me feel blah about my email writing style or thinking that my audience isn't going to resonate. So sometimes I will take a complete email and that's given me and just make a couple of tweaks because it hits the nail on the head. Other times I rewrite it completely because I take it from maybe the sprinklings of ideas, but I don't take the full thing because sometimes it just doesn't quite hit the mark and I need to trust my writing style and trust that I know what my audience wants. But at least if you're not quite as comfortable with your own writing, this will help make you feel maybe that touch better. Of course, then I'll still come back to it and let it come up with better subject line options or give me again more ideas for that. But I do not let it do my thinking for me and I do not let it give me doubts. So I always have that filter and I always have that gauge internally about, is this right for me? Is it right for my audience? Does it reflect my business and my brand? So you may be listening to this and thinking that sounds like a lot of work. I've given you a lot of different prompts and I've said, a lot of different things you can use it for. And you're thinking, you've tried it, but you haven't had great results. You've put in emails. You've even added that little bit of context. But every time you're writing the emails, you feel like you're in that back and forth argument with the ChatGPT for ages and it still just doesn't come out quite right. Or maybe you do come up with something and then you're just not getting any engagement. Like no one's opening or you aren't getting those clicks, you aren't getting those sales. And still, the emails you come up with, you still feel like they're a bit lackluster, they're lacking that personality, they feel a bit generic. And I want to tell you that the problem isn't in your prompt, and it isn't even in your content, and it isn't even that you don't know necessarily that you're just putting in the wrong things or you haven't added the secret or you need to be on a paid plan. It's that while your AI is a game changer for content creation, it is not a total miracle worker. It can only work with what it has. Rubbish in, rubbish out. And now I'm not saying you're contributing a lot of rubbish in, but if you're not giving it much, it's not going to produce much. The better stuff you feed it, the better results you will get. And all of that is what I'm teaching in my upcoming masterclass. So how to transform your ChatGPT from this generic content robot into your personal email copywriter. We will talk through about how to make it sound like you, how to take the shortcuts so that you have some great resource documents, etc., that will help it understand that context, that brand, etc. So you will learn the 5 marketing essentials that your AI must know before writing a single word. And this is what most people miss. And to be honest, it seems a bit ridiculous to me. We don't expect if we had an employee, that they would be able to just go in and write emails for us without having any context about marketing, about your brand, about your target audience, about your thought leadership, about your unique selling points, about your strategy. Yet some reason we expect AI to be able to do that. So this is a big gap, and I'm going to show you how to make it really, really simple and how to get those resources together really quickly. Also, I'm going to talk about the 7 non-negotiable email writing rules that separate these highly engaging emails from the generic AI noise. So when I said you give it some structure guidelines, etc., I'm going to share my top 7 and the one unmissable final step that turns these pretty good AI emails into the messages you want. Plus, as part of it, I'm going to give you 4, maybe more, plug and play prompts to help you implement these things. And what I'm really excited about, getting access to my Engaging Emails Studio. Yes, this is my custom GPT, which will draft emails for you and get that email written. So it's all happening live on November 12th with a limited time replay available if you can't join me. But you do need to register to get the replay. So learn more at yaelkeown.com/AI. I would love to have you there, and I would love to share all my nerdy experiments with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you about what you've enjoyed from this episode or what you want to know more about future episodes. Let me know over on Instagram. I'm at yaelkeown, all one word, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Easy Email Marketing. It's an absolute honour that you chose to listen. If you love this episode, then it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review so that others can find this podcast and make their email marketing easy too. Finally, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Until next time, have an awesome day and make sure to keep showing up and serving in those inboxes.